In the vast tapestry of World War II heroes, few names capture the imagination quite like Nancy Wake's. To the Germans, she was a phantom, a master of escape and sabotage, the most wanted woman in France, and a thorn they could never quite remove. To her comrades, she was both elegance and ferocity embodied. "The most feminine woman I know," one resistance fighter recalled, "until the fighting starts." By the war's end, Wake had become one of the most decorated women of the conflict, a legend in her own right. This is her story, a tale of grit, daring, and relentless defiance. Early life, from New Zealand to the world, Nancy Grace Augusta. Wake was born in 1912 in Wellington, New Zealand. Her childhood, however, soon took her far from her birthplace. The family moved to Australia, where she grew up in relative poverty. Even as a child, Nancy showed signs of restlessness and independence. Adventure was in her bones, and she had little interest in the quiet, domestic path expected of women at the time. At 16, fortune smiled on her. A modest inheritance of £200, substantial for the era, allowed her to leave home. With that windfall, she set out into the wider world, determined to carve her own path. Her journey took her first to New York and later to London, but it was Paris that stole her heart. There, she reinvented herself as a freelance journalist, weaving her way into the city's vibrant cultural life. Witnessing tyranny in Vienna. In the 1930s, her journalistic work brought her to Vienna, a city simmering with political tension as Nazism spread like wildfire across Europe. What she witnessed there changed her forever. She saw Jewish men and women beaten in the streets, humiliated, stripped of dignity, and marked as targets of a hateful ideology. These scenes ignited within her a deep, abiding hatred of fascism, one that would shape every choice she made in the years to come. Long before Hitler's armies crossed borders, Nancy Wake understood the danger, and she quietly resolved that if the moment came, she would resist. A glamorous life interrupted. In 1936, Nancy married Henri Fiocca, a wealthy French industrialist. The couple settled in Marseille, where she enjoyed the trappings of privilege and moved in elite social circles. Nights in glittering ballrooms and dinners with influential figures marked her life during these years. But beneath the glamour, Nancy was restless, her instincts tuned to the rumblings of war. When Germany invaded France in 1940, the fragile veneer of her high society life shattered. Unlike many who felt helpless under occupation, Nancy bristled with defiance. "I don't see why we women should just wave our men a proud goodbye and then knit them balaclavas," she remarked, reflecting her refusal to sit idly by. The White Mouse is born. At first, Wake served as an ambulance driver during France's collapse, ferrying wounded soldiers to safety. But as German forces rolled into Paris and resistance movements began sprouting across the country, she found her true calling. Nancy became deeply involved with an underground network known as the Pat O'Leary Line. Its mission was bold: to shepherd Allied airmen, persecuted Jews, and resistance fighters out of occupied territory, often guiding them across the Pyrenees into neutral Spain. Nancy and her husband used their wealth and influence to shelter escapees in their Marseille apartment, provide supplies, and coordinate safe routes. Her knack for slipping through danger earned her a nickname whispered among the Gestapo: La Souris Blanche, the White Mouse. No matter how many traps they set, she always managed to evade capture. The Germans, furious at her audacity, placed a staggering 5 million franc bounty on her head. Capture, interrogation, and escape. For all her cunning, even Nancy could not remain untouchable forever. Eventually, she was apprehended by the Gestapo. For 4 harrowing days, she endured intense interrogation. Yet she revealed nothing. No names, no safe houses, no secrets. Her release came in cinematic fashion. A resistance leader masquerading as a collaborator from the Vichy militia stormed the jail and demanded her freedom, claiming Nancy was his mistress. Embarrassed and deceived, her captors complied. Once again, the White Mouse had slipped through their fingers, but the danger only escalated. By 1943, the O'Leary line had been compromised. Many of her comrades were arrested or executed, and Nancy herself was forced to flee France. Tragically, Henri was captured by the Gestapo during this time. Refusing to betray her location, he endured torture and was ultimately executed. Nancy would not learn of his death until after France's liberation, a loss that haunted her for the rest of her life. Training with the Special Operations Executive. Having made her way to Britain, Wake volunteered for the Special Operations Executive, SOE, the secretive branch of British intelligence responsible for sabotage and espionage behind enemy lines. Her training was grueling, but she thrived. Instructors described her as determined, energetic, and a natural shot with firearms. She mastered explosives, unarmed combat, radio operation, and even parachute jumps by night. At times, her irreverent sense of humor and rebellious streak clashed with military decorum. She famously showed up to training drunk once, but her competence silenced doubters. Nancy Wake wasn't just good at her job, she was exceptional. Back to France. By 1944, the Allied invasion of Europe was imminent. The role of the French resistance was clear: sabotage German communications, destroy supply lines, and sow chaos to pave the way for liberation. In April, Nancy parachuted back into southern France, landing in the Auvergne region. Legend has it she became tangled in a tree, only to be discovered by a local resistance leader. His gallant remark about beautiful fruit hanging from the branches was met with her typically blunt reply, "Cut out the nonsense and get me down." Working with local fighters, Wake coordinated supply drops, organized raids, and maintained contact with London, at least until disaster struck. During one skirmish, her team's radio was destroyed. Without it, communication with Britain collapsed. Unwilling to accept defeat, Nancy mounted a bicycle and rode more than 500 kilometers through enemy patrols and rough terrain to deliver critical information. She completed the journey in just 3 days, a feat of endurance that remains legendary. A warrior's resolve. In the weeks leading up to and following D-Day, Nancy Wake became a whirlwind of destruction for the Germans. She helped lead attacks on railroads and bridges, crippling supply routes. In one daring raid, she and her comrades assaulted a Gestapo headquarters, killing dozens of enemy soldiers and demolishing the building. During the chaos, Nancy herself killed a guard with her bare hands to prevent him from raising the alarm, a chilling reminder that beneath her elegance lay an iron will. Her work was dangerous, exhausting, and unrelenting. Yet when asked later if she was ever afraid, she dismissed the notion. "I was too busy to be afraid." Liberation and recognition. By September 1944, as Allied armies swept across France, Nancy's clandestine activities wound down. Her role in crippling German defenses and sustaining resistance fighters proved invaluable to the liberation effort. For her bravery, she received an extraordinary array of honors. France awarded her the Médaille de la Résistance and the Croix de Guerre. Britain presented her with the George Medal, while the United States honored her with the Medal of Freedom. Few women, and indeed few men, earned such recognition. Life after war. After the conflict, Nancy struggled to settle into ordinary life. She tried her hand at politics in Australia, but found the world of campaigns and elections unsatisfying compared to the adrenaline of combat. Eventually, she remarried in 1957, this time to an RAF officer, and moved back to Britain. She lived a long life, never losing her sharp wit or her frank, no-nonsense demeanor. Nancy Wake passed away in 2011 at the age of 98. Her legacy secure as one of the most remarkable women of the 20th century. The spirit of defiance. Nancy Wake's story is not just that of a resistance fighter, but of a woman who refused to bow to tyranny, who risked everything, love, safety, and comfort, for freedom. The White Mouse scurried through the cracks of Nazi occupation, outwitting and outlasting one of history's most ruthless regimes. Her life reminds us that courage often comes wrapped in unexpected forms. A glamorous socialite, a mischievous rebel, and ultimately a warrior who never let fear slow her down. Nancy Wake was never afraid. She was too busy fighting to be. And that was the story of Nancy Wake, the White Mouse, one of the bravest and most daring women of World War II. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more incredible stories like this, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Got a historical figure or event you'd love us to cover next? Drop your suggestions in the comments below, we'd love to hear them. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep exploring the past to understand the present.